Hey, DM Dango here with another review from the DM's Guild. This time we're looking at the Dragon's Breath Tavern. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere near a Dragon's Breath when I was having a drink. So, Dragon's Breath Tavern, what are you getting here? Well, it's an adventure by Jeff C. Stevens, 27 pages long, 2 maps, and a plethora of interest and intrigue to keep your players entertained the entire way through. It is designed for adventure parties of 4 to 5 players of adventure level between 3 and 5, and adjustments for the higher and lower range exist within the module. It should take your party between 3 and 4 hours depending on kind of their playstyle and what they tend to get out of these things. It's worth noting, however, that I feel that some of the later encounters could be quite a bit more deadly and may need further adjustments that are even recommended here. The module itself is kind of a mix between a classic dungeon delve and a sort of pseudo-mystery. You're presented with a tavern and everything seems fine and dandy until you start peeling back the veil, as it were. And then all hell breaks loose, and you must delve your way down into the tavern itself, underneath its bowels, finding the secrets that lie within. So, what did I like about these adventures? Well, I really like the 2 included maps. You have one isometric and one flat, and I'm always a sucker for a good isometric map, and that one definitely applies here. It gives a good sense of depth, height, and scale across the various levels of the module that it takes place in. It gives you a lot of kind of information while still being relatively compact. It's always nice to see when in the case when you're dealing with things like height, you kind of need those 3D maps to figure out where things are in relation to each other. Now, you could just simply stack the maps on top of each other, but an isometric map kind of gives you the best of both worlds. In addition to that, I love the included minigame Demon Dice. It's very well thought out and very interesting, and kind of gives you a very unique experience within the tavern that a player isn't necessarily going to expect. He might go, oh, there's some gambling going on, we'll just roll some dice and whoever gets the highest wins. Not so here. The rules are slightly more complex than that. It's kind of akin to blackjack with the numbers being 30, but with extra dice kind of thrown in for added intrigue. I also like the fact that in certain cases he compartmentalizes the senses, saying these are the things you see, these are the things you smell, and these are the things you hear. It's nice to kind of be able to say, well, what does this thing look like? He says that he is very long-winded in terms of descriptions. I don't think so. I think that paints the perfect picture of what you're trying to look at. In fact, I would have liked to see more in certain areas to give it a better way of doing things. I liked that there was like an unusual collection of monsters. It wasn't just a case of here is this, here is this, here is this, and they kind of all fit together in a theme. But there's like an unusual kind of eclectic mix. One of my favorites is his use of mimics, but I'm not going to spoil what they are. I just like the fact that they're slightly different than the classic treasure chest. I love the interesting and unique art. I opened a couple of these pages and exclaimed out loud, what the hell is that? And saw that it was something potentially that I recognized, but necessarily in this art style or necessarily in this way, as it were. Like the classic D&D art is all well and good, but it's nice to see something that's a little different and interesting. Finally, I really love the songs. The 2 that are included as kind of a reward for your players. As part of this. Bless these adventurers that came to our town. They didn't know our faces wore a frown. All they wanted was a drink and a bed. But thankfully the Baron is dead. A nice little catchy tune. I'm not sure I'll keep that in the recording, but I really love the songs. They're really well kind of something that your players can be rewarded with without necessarily kind of breaking the bank. Now, on to what I didn't like about the adventure. Now, this list is significantly shorter than the first, and that's a good sign. It means that we're on to a winner here, and based on the other reviews, I'm not surprised. This is a very well thought out adventure. But what I didn't like, I felt that some of the gold values that were given out in terms of reward might be a touch high. It felt like there was a disparity between the amount of gold being awarded out, especially very early on in the adventure, and the kind of level the party would be expected to be at. In addition, there is a locked door that exists somewhere within the module that has an unusually high DC for its award. For its area. It is a DC 30 lockpicking check. Why bother? Why not just say the door is unlockable? Even with a thief, if you had a thief at level 5 with guidance and they rolled a 20 and they had expertise in thieves tools, then they could crack that lock. Because as we all know, a natural 20 does not mean success on skill checks, not automatic, not really, not by raw. Some DMs rule this obviously, but why not just make the door unpickable? It'd be easier. You made me think of an old, wrinkled werewolf woman. Shame on you. Finally, the one that kind of really caught me off guard was I wasn't really sure. Early on there's an encounter with waitstaff. I wasn't sure how many there actually were. I had to kind of work it out using a really odd way of grammar to kind of say, well, there are this many waitstaff and these one and one other. And it was the case of if there had been an S at the end of one word, it would have assumed that there were more than this. Why not just say there are X number of waitstaff and they all attack, as it were? It's nice. It would have been nicer to kind of just say that rather than the kind of weird way I had to work it out. But those are minor points. So, what is my rating for this? I'll be using my perk system. So, my polish, exploration, roleplay, and combat. So, let's start with combat. The combat encounters are really interesting. There's a lot of unique variation here, and there's a lot of different ways that can be resolved in terms of what is going on and what is in the room with this whatever creature you're running into. So for combat, I give it a 5. For roleplay, there's a lot of different things here. There are a lot of kind of little touches and things you can manipulate and people you can manipulate in terms of getting them to do what you want them to do, and I really like to see that. So for a roleplay, it's 5 as well. Now, for exploration, it's a dungeon and essentially there is only one way down. However, there is a split that's near the end that kind of gets you to bypass one section, but I'm not sure how much exploration you're really expected to do in this instance. It's not a case of there's multiple solutions to a problem, more of that there's multiple solutions, there's multiple problems to the same solution, as it were. You always end up at the same spot. There's not an exploration element. You can't kind of branch, as it were. There's not much of that kind of idea. And there is a little bit of like exploration in terms of wandering around into this underground area, but it is essentially a straight line down the bottom. So for exploration, I'm going to have to give it a 4. There's not a lot of variation in this. Once you've played it once, you can't really go through it again. But it is still like a nice little romp through a dungeon, so good job there. Now, polish. I think it's done really well. I think the 2 maps are really nice to see. I think the art is unique and interesting. It kind of gets you to go, ooh, what the heck is that? It's not the best quality of art in terms of like what you would see in, say, a published Wizards book, but it is still of sufficient quality for me to say I like it as a unique entry. It's something different, and something different sometimes is enough. Sometimes it's better than to have those kind of like, everything looks the same and all this stuff is from the Wizard stuff. Well, but, you know, I want to see something different. I want to see something unique, and it definitely has that here. Now, I will say, however, that some of the niggles that I had in terms of the waitstaff and thinking about old women and the locked DC door kind of let it down a little bit, but I'm only going to dock that 0.5 point for that, so 4.5. So we have 4.5, 4, 5, and 5. So in terms of what I'll be rating it on DM's Guild, I'll be rating it a 5. It's very well done. In terms of my personal rating system, that brings it out to 4.6 something repeating. But yeah, again, this is why I would rather have a 10-point rating system than a 5 one. But that's my personal gripe with DM skill, and I kind of harp on about it a bit too much, I think. Anyways, thank you for watching. Do pick up The Dragon's Breath Tavern by Jeff C. Stevens as soon as you can. It's on the DM skill right now. It's already a silver bestseller. I expect it will keep going up. It's probably hit gold, probably by the end of the week. Who knows? But thank you, and please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.